Well, after this, I'm looking forward to the sequel, Turning Blue. What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to my channel. Today we're talking about a newer Disney Plus release, Turning Red. Before we begin, let me know in the comments what your thoughts on this movie were, if you already saw it, or if you are planning on seeing it, and make sure to hit that thumbs up button if you like these reviews, as it helps me out immensely by getting my content out there. And if you're new here, I hope you consider hitting that subscribe button so you can stay up to date with reviews of new releases, older films, hidden gems, and so much more on a near daily basis. But let's not waste any more time, and let's talk about Turning Red. This focuses on a 13-year-old girl named Meilin, who turns into a giant red panda whenever she gets too excited. This is written and directed by Domi Shi and is the 25th film from Pixar, though also the third of their films to go directly to Disney Plus, along with Soul and Luca, something which has been the subject of some controversy, as Disney's been primarily releasing the rest of their bigger budget films to theaters now, or at least releasing it both to theaters and Disney Plus for a premium fee, while Pixar is the only one going straight to Disney Plus. Which is a little bit of a shame, as Pixar films are some of the rare original films that will also feel like an event film for its broad appeal to all audiences, and there have been 3 in a row now going to streaming, even as blockbusters have been returning to theaters. Though what I'll say is, while that's disappointing, I am glad to just see the movie either way, and this looks like it's going to be the last time we'll deal with that, as Lightyear should be going directly to theaters. And I'm happy to say this is another fantastic entry in Pixar's filmography. I wouldn't call it one of their absolute best of all time, which is worth mentioning, as there's always an expectation that every movie of theirs is either a 10 out of 10 movie or it's not good at all. But I'd still call this a really enjoyable upper mid-tier film of theirs, and what's amazing about Pixar is, by their standards, even a quote-unquote mid film of theirs is still really good. So, as most people know by this point, unless you've completely avoided any sort of discussion on the film, this is one giant metaphor for puberty. With Meilin beginning to grow up and experience new feelings, they feel out of her control, causing her transformations into the panda to become completely unpredictable. And for the first time, she begins to find herself and figure out who she is, which is generally a recurring theme for a lot of Pixar's films, though never done in the same way twice. But here, Meilin has an overprotective mother named Ming, voiced by Sandra Oh, who steps in during the most mundane situations and overpowers the conversation, not letting anyone get in a word edgewise, usually speaking on Meilin's behalf, even though she doesn't say anything she actually agrees with. Like, there's a scene early on where Meilin is doodling a picture of a boy at the convenience store that she has a crush on, and Ming finds it and marches down to the convenience store and screams at the boy for supposedly corrupting her daughter, even though he has no idea what she's talking about, causing Meilin to become completely embarrassed. And I want to bring that scene in particular up because even if we haven't endured a situation exactly similar to that, we've all been there where we're growing up and are completely self-conscious as we experience new things and we want to make sure we fit in socially, and we'll wind up getting embarrassed, sometimes maybe through something that's totally out of our control, especially as we look to gain independence and live our own lives. And that's especially important to keep in mind because of a criticism brought up about the film that it's supposedly not relatable and that it feels limiting, which honestly I found to be ridiculous, and I know there was some backlash to those criticisms, but I found this to just be as accessible and relatable as most of Pixar's other films. Yes, we haven't had the exact same experiences as Meilin. We definitely haven't gone through transforming into this giant red panda, and even the relationship between her and her family might not be the relationship we had with our own families, but that's never been the case with any movie. Just because we don't have the exact beat-by-beat same experience as our lead characters had, that doesn't mean we can't connect with them or relate to them. And in this case, I thought we were able to connect with Meilin just fine. Now, with her experiencing all these different emotions, it does make her feel a little all over the place, like she might be overreacting to things herself, or when she gets excited or something, she gets really excited. And I have heard criticisms that she's a little too annoying or overbearing herself, but I never really got that vibe, especially since some of her more quote-unquote extreme emotions are generally played for laughs, and I thought they were usually to success. Now, I wouldn't call this the funniest of Pixar's movies, and I don't think every single joke landed, but It's definitely the funniest of their most recent outings, as it's filled with a lot of very snappy, rapid fire exchanges, generally through the interactions between Meilin and her friends, who are all looking to go to this boy band concert that they don't have enough money for. There is a very clear anime influence in the stylization, which Domishi has said in interviews before. Now, if you're someone who's not into anime, I can see how that style might be a little off-putting because it involves a lot of rapid-fire exchanges, extreme close-ups in quick succession, and motions being displayed in such an extreme way. And that actually makes it perfect for a film like this with such hyperactive characters. And while that's not typically what we get in a Pixar film, I thought this was a great approach, as it gives way to so many jokes in quick succession, in the vein of Sony Animation's recent efforts like Into the Spider-Verse and The Mitchells vs. the Machines. Again, maybe not every single joke worked, but I loved its approach and its emphasis on the entertainment factor. Though that also doesn't mean it lacks the warmth and heart that we normally get in Pixar films. All that is still there as we explore these family dynamics and the choices Meilin finds herself making, because for the first time, she's gaining some sense of independence and making decisions for herself, which sees her rebelling against her family's wishes. We see how she gets frustrated by her mom, but we also see that Ming, as well as everyone else in the family, cares about Meilin, even if someone's efforts might be misguided. And that does lead to all these emotions racing and all these mixed feelings that culminates in satisfying arcs, though they're ones that play out in a pretty wild way. While characters can behave in some over-the-top ways throughout this, that doesn't mean they lack a total layered personality whatsoever. There's still depth and nuance when you get to the heart of these relationships. So even though there's a break from the Pixar formula, it still contains all the usual Pixar elements, just done in a much different, though refreshing way. Now, the one other thing I will address is that because this film is clearly a puberty metaphor, there might be concern from parents that this might be too much for their kids, especially if they feel they're not ready to discuss this stuff with them yet. And I will say, while this might be one of the quote-unquote edgier efforts from Pixar, I personally don't think parents will have anything to worry about if they show this to younger kids. If you think it might be too much for them, I understand, but I personally think you'll be fine. While as an adult, the metaphor is crystal clear, there aren't any explicit references that parents might find inappropriate, especially since the way the film centers all talks about the panda as involving this curse and this ritual that needs to be done in order to keep the panda contained, all things that clearly have nothing to do with puberty. It's so wrapped up in those fantastical elements that kids will be completely distracted by all that to really question too much else. I mean, there is the occasional adult joke thrown in there, but I still wouldn't worry about that, as there have been adult jokes in so many other kids' films and shows that have gone over our heads till adulthood, like from Disney, Pixar, DreamWorks, or whoever, and they can still be enjoyed by kids to this day. So in terms of that sense of humor, this is honestly nothing different than films that have preceded it. Turning Red is another great entry in Pixar's filmography that offers a bit of a break from the usual Pixar formula. It gives us a compelling metaphor for growing up that still manages to entertain at the same time, with an anime influence that gives way to a lot of rapid-fire jokes. With relatable characters and an engaging story, this goes to show why Pixar is one of the best in the business. Turning Red gets an 8.5 out of 10. So let me know, did you see Turning Red, or are you planning to see it, and what were your thoughts? Did you think this was one of Pixar's best, one of their worst, somewhere in the middle? Let me know in the comments below so we can discuss. Also, if you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and share it, and for more movie reviews and film discussion, please make sure to hit that subscribe button to stay updated. Thanks for watching everyone, and keep having fun with film.